this special report, we're going to revisit the Charlie Kirk assassination and all of the conspiracies and information that's come out since his death. There's going to be a big focus on Candace Owens, since she has kind of taken the lead in the conspiratorial investigation of this death. I will say two things. Something doesn't necessarily feel right about it. I've heard a lot of different opinions and possible conspiracies that made a lot more sense than the sense that Candace made on Monday. In fact, this video, originally, I was making this video based off of what Candace released Monday, and I was really shredding it apart because there was just so many things that just seemed wrong about that. Now, since then, Andrew Kolvek, the spokesperson for Turning Point USA, has made statements about Candace in particular, and it did sit well with me, his response. We're going to talk about that too. Candace plays it, footage that we're going to play. I'm glad we didn't publish it as far as the first episode, because it was really shredding Candace, and she really had me to the point where I had to put her in the crazy bin. And I'm glad I didn't put her in the crazy bin just yet, because a lot more has been revealed since then. However, I still do have some critiques of Candace and just the whole situation. There's some elephants in the room that some of them we'll talk about, and some of them I'm not even going to touch. And no, I'm not referring to Israel. We're going to talk about that. But there's some other elephants in the room that I'm not going to touch. At the end of the day, none of us really know what's going on. So instead of watching this video to my left here, which was the original plan, we're going to switch it up and play a different video. This one just aired 2 hours ago, so we're going to critique this and go off of this because this is the latest. And let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments. But let's go ahead and dig in, because we got about an hour of footage that I'm going to cover. We're going to listen to what she has to say, and I'm going to stop it periodically and kind of just weigh in on it.
Way to the military, and we now have to suffer these military bot farms calling for war with Iran. But last night, the platform was exceptional. It was amazing. The tears that were being shed all over the place. I mean, I really picked out the best responses to me dropping the text messages. It was hilarious. Anyway, Turning Point USA has responded to the release of the messages, so we are going to watch that. Spoiler alert, they were real, of course. And on top of that, Turning Point USA donor has published a public letter regarding me, and I was truly touched by it, and I think you will be too, so I want to share that. Welcome back to Candace. My little sister called me this morning, and she was like, Candace, your podcast right now is like the show Succession on HBO. You guys know this show, which is about how all of the heirs and supposed to be kind of fashioned after Rupert Murdoch's throne. All the siblings are fighting one another to see who will it be that gets this empire. That really made me chuckle. I think that should be our new show intro. Yes. Who will succeed Charlie Kirk? Who shall inherit the Turning Point throne? You know what, you guys? The best part of all of this for me is, unlike those ill-begotten, 0% interest in Charlie's empire. I am not motivated.
So I paused it here, guys. She's saying she has zero interest in Charlie's empire. I primarily believe that. I know that she's enjoying the viewership that she's recently received off of this, but I don't think that's her reasoning behind it. And as far as what she was saying about the text messages and their confirmation of legitimacy, I did question, when I watched this stuff Monday, like I was going to shred that part. I really was questioning their legitimacy. Now they're being confirmed by Turning Point USA. So, you know, something you guys have to keep in mind, right? So if we're going to give legitimacy to some of these claims, then we also have to take into account that there's going to be several embedded assets in his sphere and also in her sphere, and she opens herself up to manipulation with her hotlines and her intelligence agency that she says, you know, I think that's a little bizarre that you're starting an intelligence agency. It's not, you know, it's a little weird. You're going to get a lot of quacks that give you information. Now, she does have a big base, so she does have some legitimate contacts, and she's getting some real information. I'm giving her credit there. I don't think she's crazy. I was thinking she was nuts. Now I don't think she's crazy, and I do think she's genuine. But the thing here isn't gonna prove guilt to any particular individuals. I don't think. I could be wrong. Things are still developing. I'm reserving really my opinion on this whole situation because I don't know what's going on, and neither does she. I don't think she realizes that if she's right, this is really not even about Charlie Kirk. This is more probably about civil war and to divide and conquer. So that would be what I would think would be the motive behind it all if we're going down her rabbit hole. But here's the thing about rabbits. When you go down all these rabbit holes and you come up with nothing, you realize that you're the actual rabbit. And that's why I don't like going down all these rabbit holes. If she's correct, I don't think that she's going to be able to prove it. And I don't know that it's going to change anything the way that she hopes it's going to change it. But I could be wrong. I do give her respect for, coming out the way she is. But at the same time, because that does take, courage. But at the same time, I question some things. And I say this with the utmost respect, Candace, but I highly recommend you take about 5 days off completely. Go somewhere, go on vacation with your husband, and don't touch any of this for 5 days because it'll all be there when you come back. You need to clear your head and make sure that you're clearly identifying facts from hunches, because you're talking about dreams, and I could actually present things to you that would support that would give credibility to your whole dream element to your investigation. But so I'm not discrediting it, but at the same time, like you just got to be careful. You're really playing with fire. So now I want to be clear, guys. I'm not discrediting the fact that this could be some type of massive cover up. But if it is some big conspiratorial type of cover up, if it's some type of cover up like that, I think the primary objective of the entire operation would be to start a civil war and cause more civil unrest. I'm not paid by Israel. I'm not paid by anybody. And I don't think the Israelis are behind it. I think that it's true that he was having disagreements with the Jewish donors, but I don't think that necessitated his death. I'm sure it could be argued that the Jews and the Israelis have enough influence within the intelligence agencies that it's possible that they're involved in these black programs that literally the President of the United States is not fully briefed on. If you guys think that Donald Trump was briefed fully in 2016 on everything that is going on in the US government, you really need to think again. And even in 2024, he was not fully briefed. The black projects, first of all, they don't have to disclose anything that they're doing, so there's no records. And they operate with very large budgets. To accuse the FBI or the Trump presidency of conducting some type of cover-up, I don't think that that's probable, because that level of government, to have that many people in on a conspiracy of this size, just isn't wise. That's not how these groups operate. That would mean that almost all of the agents and everyone involved would have to be in on it. I do not think that would be the case. I think that if it is of that nature and the quote government or a military hit is behind it, it is from a fraction of the US government that almost can't even be considered the US government, because they don't really ask for permission and they don't tell the president that, yeah, we just assassinated this guy to start a civil war. As much as Trump probably does not want to hear that, I mean, he knows that the deep state, quote unquote, keeps him in the dark, and that's part of the issue here. If this was an assassination that was organized and it was a government thing like Candace believes it was, that whatever black project executed this operation had most likely been underway for many years. That means that there are going to be people in Charlie's circle that are guilty. The footage she's about to show here, their explanation for taking the SD cards, that actually makes perfect sense. So do I trust the spokesperson, Andrew Koronick? I don't know him. He is the spokesperson for a very large, media company. So, I mean, he's trained. That was a trained response. If Candace is right, my issue with these text messages is these text messages could be fake text messages, and there could be multiple people inside of TPUSA that are in on it, and they're feeding her this information because this is exactly what they want her to do, is create division. So I think that's something that needs to be kept in the forefront of everything as we move forward. I now believe Candace not to be crazy, and that she is doing her best to verify sources and present real evidence, and she's not playing around. She still needs to understand that if this thing runs as deep as she's saying, the evidence that she's getting is most likely altered and part of a larger narrative. That's all I'm saying. But let's go ahead and keep watching.
Real people. I was briefly in touch with one Elon Musk. Oh, really? You were in touch with Elon Musk on Telegram? Third, if you discount the text messages between Tyler Robinson and his trans furry lover, you cannot take these at face value. Lastly, even if the text messages were real, they mean literally nothing related to Charlie's death. I find it scary how Candace is building a literal cult. Soon, they'll be drinking Kool-Aid in sync with, I don't even know if that says 31 Atlas, to be sent to heaven. I think that might be a cult, actually. That's how I'm not in a cult at all. So much I don't even recognize was probably a very big cult's name. And I love that Mel replies and says, bro, if I got scammed in a Telegram group chat by Elon Musk, quote unquote, I'd take that ish to my grave. Britta, you can see she's also replying. He was replying to Britta, no soup for Knowles, if you want to bring that right back up. She wrote, and by the way, she used to work for Seth Dillon, so this is the usual chatter, a group of people. She wrote, is Candace posting fake group chat screenshots to conveniently back up her narrative that Charlie was dropping the pro-Israel cause and inviting Candace to the TPUS stage? I'm just asking questions. All fair, we allow questions. We even allow diagnoses. We're chill. We're on the side of truth. We are so chill.
So yeah, I thought those messages were fake too and could easily be faked. And again, I believe Candace got them in good faith, presented them in good faith, but she needs to reevaluate the source of the messages because that source could be compromised. So possible that organization has been significantly infiltrated. That is more than possible, and that the real agenda is an anti-Israel and anti-Christian narrative, honestly. I mean, that is possible. But let's keep watching.
Laura Loomer, who is legally just, not allowed to own a gun because she's a literal lunatic, had the nerve to post this about me when somebody called her out. Morgan Ariel said, Laura Loomer hasn't made a single post about Candace Owens reporting on Charlie Kirk's group messages. We all know she's the first to run her mouth. And she wrote, because I don't give an F about Candace Owens and her postpartum psychotic rants. Even if those texts are real, it still does not mean that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. I never said that. Candace Owens makes content for low IQ people who don't understand how criminal investigations work. It's going to be hilarious when she is sued by TPUSA in addition to Macron's wife. Yes! Bankrupt her for telling the truth! Do it! Do it! Bankrupt her! Yeah. When you are down bad, just like Mel says, when they're really...
So again, I'm kind of in that same boat, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not afraid of Israel. I'm not paid by Israel, anything like that. I don't think that even with him parting ways with an Israeli donor and him, having that friction with them, I don't think that's behind this hit. I just don't. It just that took place too fast for it to be that organized. If it is in fact some type of big conspiracy, there's no way they threw that together in 3 days. I mean, they just didn't. So her intelligence agency thing, with all due respect, that's a little cringy. And so my company has received tips. When I went after a pederast that was in a school, I was public, and people were reaching out to my company telling me about pedophiles in various schools in that area. I know about a bunch of them. Her tip line is going to bring in some legitimate stuff, her name being as big as it is and making the inquiries with, everyone and putting stuff out. She is, getting some legitimate evidence per se, but she is also very susceptible to whoever did this manipulating the hell out of her for their real agenda. So let's go ahead and keep watching.
Down bad. Nothing is left. You just sue. Anyways, back to how unhinged just chatter was on X, generally speaking. I laughed out loud. Everybody uses the term blitzkrieg. Even in the NFL football team say blitzkrieg. Yes, it relates back to Germany. It's a bombardment strategy. So that's why we use it when you're going to bombard. And so I called it Blitzkrieg Week because we're just dropping a bunch of bombs. And Britta decided to take that literally. She said, Candace thinks it's cute to use Nazi terminology and make a turning point pun while she incites further harassment of TPUSA employees by implicating them in Charlie's death. It's a sick game for her. And out of nowhere, Megyn Kelly needs to stop making excuses for this vile behavior. I have no idea why Megyn Kelly is being just abused. It's like these people just get drunk and beat Megyn Kelly when they get home. I don't know what is happening and why she's being dragged into anything that I say, but it's exceptional that they're so desperate that German words, you can't even say blitz means lightning, Krieg means war. Last I checked, people are still allowed to speak German. And last I checked, everybody uses the terminology blitz, blitzkrieg. Washington Post certainly does when they're describing things that's happening at the White House. But now this is how desperate they are for anything, grasping at straws. Nick Fuentes, our routine federal informant, writes this. Why did she sit on this for 4 weeks and then censor the other names? So just grasping at straws. Just grasping at straws here. And he followed that up by taking a stab at Charlie Kirk, who's dead. Charlie Kirk said he had no choice to leave the pro-Israel cause because a Jewish donor stopped giving him millions of dollars. What a coincidence. He had his great epiphany about Israel after they stopped paying him to shill. Speaking of paying people to shill, it's why I didn't take 1 minute or one sentence, rather, of him trying to eulogize Charlie Kirk seriously, because that right there is the real Nick Fuentes. The quartering jumped in. He says, a serious question. Let's assume the texts are real and that Charlie was 100% serious and not just being sarcastic, which is totally possible. What exactly does this prove? Think before you reply. What does it prove other than someone close to him was fine leaking his texts? That's in their new talking point. How dare you leak text messages? And finally, this is just funny, so we're going to show you this. Community notes for the win. The Misfit Patriot writes, I will give Candace every single shekel Israel has paid me for my posts if she can prove those text messages are real. Update, says Community Notes. Andrew Colvett confirmed the screen grab was real. Of course it was real. But I would have to be the dumbest person ever. First off, I'm not even inclined towards tech, but also would have to be an absolute idiot, a moron, to try to figure out how to manufacture text messages for the purpose of releasing them to then probably get sued by every person that was not in the chat. Like, I'm just like, hey, Josh Hammer received this message. That'd be so dumb. But like I said, these people were desperate for it not to be real because they've been lying so hard about everything. They've just been lying and they have some egg on their face now.
Okay, so the text messages were real as far as them being from a quote-unquote legitimate source to Candace Owens. So as far as Candace Owens' hands are concerned, the texts are real, which everything that she's going over right now with, Nick Fuentes and all this other stuff, it's all fluff. I mean, this stuff proves nothing. I'm tired of hearing about it. I don't see some huge issue with what Nick Fuentes said. He said what he thought. Who cares? I don't think it's accurate, but he said his thoughts. I mean, that doesn't mean he wasn't being sincere in his eulogy of, Charlie Kirk. Yeah, let's continue watching.
And reality hit them pretty quickly this morning when Andrew Colvett, Turning Point's spokesperson, confirmed that the messages were in fact real. He did this on the Charlie Kirk show. And actually, I don't think it's dramatic to state that this may be the first respectable measure taken by Turning Point USA executives since the passing of Charlie Kirk, like the first respectable response. And yeah, I thought that was, I will compliment that. Just the action of Andrew Colvett addressing it head on instantly was good. So let's hear Andrew Colvett in his own words.
But I want to take the start of this show to address some of the things that have been going around on public, namely about a group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. And I just want to address it head on because, that was a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic. And I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friends' trust in that way. But I did share it with some people in government because it happened really quick. It was, it took 33 hours for authorities to get their suspect. And in those first moments, we wanted no stone unturned. We wanted to leave nothing unturned. So I shared it with a few people. Don't know where it went from there, apparently. But here we are. So one of the reasons, Blake, that I'm glad to have this now public, it was not mine to share publicly, but one of the criticisms we've received is that we don't care, we're not investigating every lead, we're not looking under every stone, and that somehow we're just sweeping things under the rug. And when I say that we want justice for Charlie more than anybody else, I really mean it, and no stone unturned. I mean, I don't know if you want to chime in on that part alone, but I have more to say.
Yeah, it has been so frustrating to have people blow up about this, and I've certainly stated publicly, the reason I haven't weighed in on things is I am an eyewitness to events, and they've said don't comment on things because anything you say can mess that up. I don't want to mess up any trial for the person who did this.
That's 1,000% right. And I will say I wasn't an eyewitness. I was not there. I flew to Utah immediately to be with the family and the team, but I was not an eyewitness. So there's that. But I am aware that in my role as spokesman for Turning Point USA, which is another hat I wear, that things I say, I'm cognizant of the fact that things I say could negatively impact an ongoing investigation. All right. But I will weigh in specifically on this issue of Israel because I know there's a lot of fascination. And I just want to say that, we have to let free speech be our North Star here, okay? Charlie was adamantly free speech, and I am not personally going to impugn anybody's character who is asking questions and looking for answers, all right? And I will say that text chain is consistent with public frustrations that he voiced many times, and I know, Blake, you were in the trenches on a lot of this stuff because we were workshopping how we were going to do the tour and what he's going to get asked about Israel, what was he going to say. And this is consistent with things that he told his friends, people that are, in the wider movement about his wrestle that he was going. And so I just want to say, what is the truth about the way Charlie felt about Israel? Well, it's complicated and it's nuanced, and it was a wrestle that was going on for months. And it's probably somewhere between the BB letter and the text.
So what do we think? Okay, obviously, you can tell.
So I want to say that a lot of the things that Andrew Cornick says does make sense as far as them not wanting to interfere with investigations. Him releasing that text log, I'm not disputing. I don't know. I'm taking it at the face value that, Charlie Kirk was having issues with the Israeli lobby and they were pulling out. I don't think the Israeli lobby would have killed him 2 days later and been able to orchestrate such a cover-up like that in 2 days. So that's one thing that just does not make any sense. What would make more sense is if, again, it was some type of deep black ops project that was long running and Charlie was identified as a potential person to be assassinated in a JFK type of way in an effort to start a civil war would be my theory. But again, that's just a theory. But that also exonerates the FBI, the local sheriff's department, because really, like, there's a lot of times where she's insinuating, the FBI, the local police, the family members, the boy or the trans boyfriend, all these people are all in conspiracy together. It just, that's a little, it just doesn't, add up. So I think honestly, the Israelis and the Jewish donors, I think they've been identified as a scapegoat long before this actually happened. And then this just lined up great. So that would be my thought, is that the Israelis really didn't do this. I'm not paid by any of them, and I'm not scared of any of them either. I just don't think that they probably did this. If this was done by more of like a deep black operation that's, pretty rogue, most likely. And that's taken directives probably from a family, not a country.
He's anxious. You can tell he's nervous speaking about this. I am sure it was positively frantic at Turning Point USA yesterday. I am sure he had very little sleep. And like I say, never the fun thing to be the spokesperson and also to be involved in the story. I can tell you right off the bat, he is telling the truth. He was not the person who shared that message with me. He also should know that he was not the only person who sent that message and sent messages around. So there are a lot circulating, some videos that are circulating. And he's being honest about that portion. I personally, as someone who knows Andrew Colbert, I want to express how I feel. I hold it against him, actually, that he didn't share it with me. He knew. I cried on the phone with Andrew. He knew how I was feeling. And then I went under a very, well, you could say a blitzkrieg, right? A heavy bombardment from people who he knows hated Charlie, who tried to stop Charlie, people who had no issues showing up to his memorial. I mean, really gross stuff, who were attacking me. And he could have at least provided some cover. Now, I'm not saying that I need help, but sometimes it's nice to offer somebody a lifeboat when they're being attacked for telling the truth, right? So I do want to say that. Also, I'm glad that Andrew responded correctly, because I was going to say this when Blake's like, well, the investigation's ongoing. That text message has nothing to do with an investigation whatsoever. It has to do with the broader question of people feeling that Charlie's legacy is intentionally being hijacked by Israel. I never stated that Israel killed Charlie. Anybody that's been watching this investigative series, we've come up, there hasn't even been an Israeli name that's popped up in this investigation. There's only been one Jewish person, I think, that's popped up thus far in this investigation, which is George Zinn, decoy boy. So they're just saying that. I just wanted to say that he was under a tremendous amount of pressure. Now, regarding the other things that are circulating that have not been publicized yet, and people should know that there is an underground movement of truth tellers in this moment. Okay, there's an underground movement of knights all around the world, from mom sleuths to government employees, like he said, to personal assistants, to Turning Point USA donors, who are working together to bring justice to Charlie, because we don't like the way this feels. We just don't like the way it feels. The vibes are off. I will respect, even though obviously that statement was prepared, I will respect the fact that Andrew says what Charlie would have said. And for the first time, I feel that's been expressed, that we have to let free speech be our north.
So I find it interesting that she just said that she doesn't think the Israelis killed Charlie Kirk, because I don't think that either. But what I think is interesting is that she's fixated on the comments that Netanyahu made. I don't understand the fixation. I've watched everything that Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has said about Kirk's death. I wasn't disgusted by it. So I don't understand why she's trying to fixate on that. The broader anti-Israeli narrative, it's funny because it appears TPUSA is actually on an anti-Israeli narrative. And she's on an anti-Israeli narrative. But the thing is that if this was a conspiracy, I would take the Israelis out of the conspiracy. I think they're just a scapegoat to cause confusion, and that this is bigger and deeper and longer thought out than that. Charlie meets the criteria. His assassination, everything that's happening could be exactly what whoever's guilty of the assassination wanted, which was maybe civil war, distraction from other things. And I just don't see the connection with the Israelis and that distraction. I don't see it, not in the time frames that are presented. 2 days before he's breaking up with an Israeli donor. Okay, for them to do the type of cover up that's being suggested, it would have to be years and years in the making. Let's keep watching.
Star. And I'm not so sure that some of the people that were donating to Turning Point USA believe that. In fact, I'm certain some of them don't believe that. Obviously, we wouldn't have that text message if they all believed that. And that is what I think has been so frustrating, is that it seems as though the executives would rather, and I'm now referring to Tyler Boyer, impugn the character of the people who are doing exactly what Charlie Kirk would have done. So please, Andrew, make sure that Tyler Boyer and Alex Clark get the internal memo about free speech. I want to say one more thing rather explosively. 3 people told me off record. 2 people who have this in a written communication from Charlie. One who is a Turning Point USA donor, and I would say very much one of the white knights in this. The very day before Charlie Kirk died, he expressed that he thought he was going to be killed. He told these people, I think they're going to kill me. Okay? He did not express that to me. So I am telling you this based off the testimony of 3 people. And I am saying this because I hope that these people who I think are good will be inspired to come forward with that. Now, again, those conversations I had were off record. I honor that. If I say it's off record, it stays off record. But I'm hoping that watching what I am doing and feeling the energy that is rising across the world for people who want to know what the heck happened on 9/10, that, they will be brave and they will say, yeah, Charlie did the day before he died think that he was going to be killed, and maybe tell us, who is they? Well, for once and for all, who is they? Who is the they that he thought were going to kill him? Now, to give the obvious answer to federal informant Nick Fuentes' question, the reason that I waited to reveal the text messages is because I'm not a child, okay? Like I said, I have a lot more. I'm not an idiot, and I have self-control, and I understand that time is always going to be on the side of truth. Time is on the side of truth. Liars know that that's the reality. Liars know that they have to speak quickly, that they have to speak repeatedly, and I wanted the world to truly understand just exactly what it is that we are up against, okay? People that I deem to be mentally and spiritually evil, okay? Evil in the true essence of the word evil. People who knowingly lied, instantly lied, repeatedly lied, and continued to do so without a trace of shame, okay? Without a trace of shame.
Okay, so she's saying that she has common sense and, she's trying to do everything professionally, and she didn't release all the texts and all the evidence and this and that. I actually believe her. That makes sense. I've been in situations where I'm sitting on 80 exhibits and I want to take the situation completely public and just blow it up, and you got to use discretion. There's a lot of legal factors you got to take into consideration. So, what she's saying here makes sense. This is her reestablishing credibility with me after Monday, because that video I was shredding. It came across cringy because when you look at the text, they're talking about not like Candace, and it looked kind of fake, like it could easily be faked. So that's why it came across that way. Let's go ahead and keep listening.
I mean that, right? I really do mean it when I say that you have to be someone that is, or maybe rather someone that is possessed by something that is less than human, subhuman, to do that. There's no humanity in you. That is why I named Josh Hammer. I believe he is a deeply disturbed man. Think about that. Now that you have those messages, okay, let's put this in the context. Just a few hours before I dropped that text chain, Josh Hammer was concerning himself with what he's been doing since Charlie caught the bullet in his neck. He has been spreading lies, saying that Charlie never flinched on Israel, right? Charlie never flinched. Oh my God, these people like Candace, they're lying. 48 hours before Josh Hammer was on that text thread. And that did not stop him from keeping up the propagandist effort when he went on a show yesterday, before I dropped the messages, and said this.
Charlie was a close friend of mine, as you know. We actually spoke literally the night before his tragic and untimely death. I was on a small Zoom call with him and a couple others. We were literally talking through this topic. I was giving Charlie advice for how to message on this issue on his forthcoming campus tour. You know, he kind of jokingly mentioned to me, he was like, Josh, I'm going to mention your book, Israel and Civilization, and it's so good. And that was literally our last conversation. It's just so tragic. This letter that he wrote to the Prime Minister, Chris, I read back in June or July or so. And there were so many people in the aftermath of his horrific assassination, Candace Owens, folks like that, who were saying that, oh, Charlie was turning on Israel. He was ready to sell them out and renounce his life's work of sincere and genuine friendship with the Jewish people and the Jewish state. But this letter that he wrote to Bibi Netanyahu, Chris, literally begins. The first sentence of the letter is, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's a close paraphrase. As a Christian, one of my greatest joys in life is making friendships with the Jewish people and defending the state of Israel. That's literally the opening sentence of this letter.
Filth. Okay? Absolute filth. I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. Whatever that is that lives in him does not live in me. There was no truth in him. Obviously, there was no truth in Josh Hammer. He could have said, well, Charlie was going through 48 hours earlier. Yeah? He refused to do that. And in fact, I'm quite alarmed with what I know, that there are 3 people who said that Charlie communicated 24 hours before he died, that he thought they were going to kill him. Now I find it rather alarming that Josh Hammer is similarly saying, oh, the night before. So you spoke to him the night before. Did he communicate that to you, Josh Hammer? Did he? I'm interested. I know we won't get answers from you, but let me promise you that if I get a text message to the effect that you were somehow involved in him feeling anxiety the day before, if you did something that gave him anxiety in that way, I will release it instantly. There will be no place that you can hide. Anyways, I want you guys to know that I was feeling so inspired by Josh Hammer's utter lack of human decency that I went ahead this week and sent around a life insurance policy of sorts, a package rather, to people that I trust, a package filled with text messages, emails, private communications, videos, and private legal documents. So if anything happens to me, you guys will know exactly who it is that has been making my life a living hell over the past couple of years. People that are trying to bankrupt me, trying to bankrupt me and my family, that are threatening us, to sue us. Everything that Kanye said was so real. Okay, I'm now at that point where you look back and you go, man, Kanye was right. He was really saying something about what it takes to leave, to fight for custody of your own soul. Just leave me alone. Let me say what I believe and you say what you believe. Fight fair. Why do you always have to make this threat to bankrupt people? And I want you to know that those people, if anything happens to me, they have my explicit permission to release it all, detonate it all, expose all of these people in politics and in the movement who behave like this behind the scenes. It's necessary. And I highly recommend every single person that is out there that has a platform and is going through things and is scared, do the same. Send everything around to about 8 people that you trust. And I mean, I've ranged it. I sent it to journalists, text messages and screenshots to people ranging from Max Blumenthal to Andrew Tate. They won't know where it's coming from. It will be everywhere. I want to remind you guys in the wake of all of this that it is so important to keep trusting our guts. We have been proven right so many times in the recent past, right? Whether we're speaking about COVID, people that had to actually take a stance before people were then suddenly government, admits, oh yeah.
Okay, she's starting to lose me again. I don't doubt that she's on the radar of multiple organizations, entities, or individuals at this point. That's obvious. We know that for a fact. She's being sued by a president. So, I mean, what she's saying is legitimate. I think it's just a little out of good taste, and anybody that's in her situation, I do the same thing whenever I'm about to engage in anything of legality. I preserve all the evidence and keep it organized, duplicate it multiple times, and then disperse it so that I have it. But I don't know, man. She needs to take a vacation. In all honesty, she needs a vacation. Seriously, it would do her good. I'm not discrediting her, but she needs to go on vacation. because she's picking a whole lot of enemies, and she's doing it off of her gut, which she's about to get into. So, I mean, I don't know if that's too wise. I'm going to say not wise, you know. And I got it playing in 2 different spots. That's why I keep looking over here. But yeah, she needs a 5-day vacation at least. That's what I would prescribe. I'm not a professional. I'm not a mental health professional, but that's what I personally would prescribe. And that's no offense to her either. But let's keep on listening.
We were lying about this, we were lying about that. We feel it all right now. The feds are lying. That is beyond obvious, which is why I was very happy to hear former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill explain this plainly when he went on Piers Morgan's show the other day. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I mean, it was off right from the beginning for me. Do we not guard rooftops anymore? There's been assassination attempts all over the world. Right. Why aren't we looking at rooftops? And then when I was sent the video with this at the same message where they said Charlie Kirk was just shot. When I watched that horrific video, he was obviously dead before he hit the ground. But the questions immediately started to come to me. That was not an entry wound that we saw. We saw an exit wound. So where'd that bullet come from? You don't bleed like, and I've shot guys closer than the camera was. And an entry wound doesn't look like that. An exit wound does. Why did his shirt move the way it did? When I've shot people, their shirts didn't move like that. And then the initial reaction was, well, he was obviously wearing body armor and it was deflection. 1, no. He wasn't wearing body armor. And 2, it doesn't deflect like that off of body armor. Why was his shirt moving from right to left? Why were people being interviewed saying, yeah?
Something very interesting about this investigation of Charlie Kirk's murder. I don't think the majority of people in the world feel that we know what happened. And I want you guys to know that we have not for a single second ceased our investigation, right? What actually happened on 9/10, we don't know. And we are still working through a ton of the tips related to what happened. But I want to tell you that I actually believe that this was a military hit that involved foreign actors. Investigation, I don't think the majority of people in the world feel that we know what happened. And I want you guys to know that we have not for a single second ceased our investigation, right? What actually happened on 9/10, we don't know. And we are still working through a ton of the tips related to what happened.
So, guys, she starts talking about how Tyler Robinson and the family are now telling her that he didn't do it, and that's the official narrative is not how it went down. I'm sorry, but this is where she lost me in the first video Monday. The man is facing the death penalty. Of course he's going to say that. Whether he's guilty or innocent, he's going to say that. And I'm not saying he's definitely guilty, and it's easy to jump the gun, as you can see in my intro in the video on Remembrance of Charlie Kirk. No pun intended either on jumping the gun. But the thing is, it's easy to jump the gun and say he's definitely guilty. Is it possible what Candace is suggesting, that maybe he wasn't even there on that day, and the whole thing about the Dairy Queen that she's about to get into? So I don't know, and I'm not saying Candace isn't onto something, but I can't speak on it because I really don't know. There's a lot of things. She's claiming that the FBI is covering this up. I don't really buy that. If it is a government hit or some type of paramilitary hit or some type of black program that has been in the works, I don't think that the surface level FBI, everybody's going to be, that's just too many people to be in on such a large thing. I just don't see it. I don't see it. There's a lot of gaps, and I don't know, Candace. Well, let's keep watching, guys.
Tell you that I actually believe that this was a military hit that involved foreign actors and also literal actors. I believe that that day ran something akin to JFK's assassination. I believe that there were therefore multiple decoys on the ground. I do not believe, just so I'm clear here, that the person who was walking up the stairs killed Charlie. In fact, my suspicion is that that photo was not even shot on the same day. I do not believe that the person who ran across Losey rooftop killed Charlie. I think that was another decoy. I do not believe that shot came from a Losey Center at all. And we all know that decoy George.
Okay, so again, like she's about to go into them changing the locks. I would change the locks too if the guy just murdered somebody. It's high profile. People are protesting. People on both sides are making threats to kill figures on each side. Like, yeah, I'd change the locks too. This whole thing to me is kind of it's not really that relevant. It was probably the trans guy. Is he in witness protection right now? Probably. She raises the question, was he a government asset? And if he and it's possible that he is a government asset. And if he is a government asset, then that means that the shooter that's in prison most likely unknowingly had been part of some type of program, probably his whole life, due to some lineage connection, because that is the way that these programs expand. And that one key thing that she said caused me to give her more legitimacy when she talks about tracing back the lineage as far as government connections, because that is how those programs tend to expand, and they do that. It's a multi-tiered, multi-level type of thing, and it's just easier to control subjects, especially if they're not knowingly a part of the operation and they're just being, cultivated and programmed to a point where they can be strongly suggested to commit a particular type of thing. And those types of programs do exist. So, I mean, that's going, it's possible. But it's also possible that this guy's just acting on his own. That's still a possibility. And so far, the official narratives don't really leave a bad taste in my mouth personally, but things do seem a little off, not with the FBI, but with others involved. Things seem off. So I can't really put my finger on it. I really have no idea what's going on here, but let's keep watching her. She's almost done. Thank God, because this is mentally exhausting me to keep going over those.
Him as well, that he's much more connected than what meets the surface. He potentially has connections to the federal department, familial connections to the federal department, and we are prodding that. It's getting interesting. Anyway, that would suggest that there are thus a total of 4 decoys, like George Zinn, staircase guy, maroon shirt guy, and Losey Center guy, none of which I believe actually pulled the trigger. Call it a hunch. I think it's much more likely that Lance Twiggs is the one that is walking in that maroon shirt. His build is nothing like Tyler Robinson's build. Lance Twiggs is thinner. And obviously I'm speculating here, but I believe Tyler Robinson was involved, and he was in fact driving around campus on that day, therefore assisting in the costume changes, likely picking up clothing. And as we broke the story, Tyler was seen at Dairy Queen. And what was he seen doing, as I told you? Dumping clothing in the cemetery beside that Dairy Queen. So I think that is what his involvement is limited to. That was his job, to get rid of clothing. It's completely a nonsense to think that a person who had never killed anyone was high on adrenaline after a kill and decided to eat Dairy Queen. That doesn't even make sense biologically speaking. There was going to be an adrenaline measure that kicks in after you kill an animal, let alone a person, let alone having it be your first kill. And you're like, he just decided to go to DQ, sit down, write some poetic text messages. It's why they are freaking out about that Dairy Queen leak, because it disrupts their narrative. One of many things that disrupts their narrative. But what about Lance Twiggs, right? This roommate, man, something about him. The roommate of Tyler Robinson is, I think, federally protected. I especially think that because we learned some more interesting facts about him. So I feel confident, or I shouldn't say completely confident, but I feel like it's okay to venture a guess that he is a federal asset of some description. Could be related to his online work on Discord chats. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. Anyways, I can tell you guys, I can break this for you, that the government, and this would implicate Governor Cox and whoever else was a part of that press conference the morning after, the 33 hours after they apprehended Tyler Robinson, the government lied when they said, Lance, I'm obviously paraphrasing here, he came in peacefully, he handed over everything. I mean, the whole depiction was like he was just so shocked that his boyfriend could do something like this. And so he handed over everything. Well, according to his family, that's just not true. According to his family, he was raided and he was angry. Something else that was interesting, we had told you guys that Tyler's family thought that there could have been something weird going on with that raid, that perhaps the feds could have been staging that apartment to fit into their narrative. Now, the feds are staging this entire operation, so that would follow that if you're trying to get a conviction, you got to be like, and we found this in his house, the note underneath the keyboard. So convenient. A picture of it, but then he destroyed it. Because everybody knows if you want to destroy something so it never sees the light of day, you take a picture of it so it lives forever in the iCloud. Anyways, we were told by Lance's family that, who, by the way, own the apartment that the two of them lived in, that Tyler and Lance lived in, we were told that somebody illegally changed their locks on the home following the raid. Obviously illegal. They were not informed that the locks were being changed. So it gives us two options. It was either Lance or it was the feds. I was wondering, if you're Lance and you really got swept up in this and you're so shocked that Tyler Robinson did this, are you speaking to your family about that? My gosh, I'd imagine you want to speak to your family. No, it seems Lance has similarly been in an unknown location since the raid. I would imagine he was in witness protection for a bit, but he doesn't need family. He feels, I would say, that suggests that he's pretty arrogant right now in this moment. He's not fearful of anything. Like I said, the sense I am getting is we are watching a play, right? The government has us completely distracted with photos of people who are not even the same person. I never for a second thought the person that was in the maroon shirt was the same as the person that was walking with the limp. It's completely foolish and ridiculous. I can also tell you something else. We received a tip, which I vetted, that on the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination, immediately George Zinn gets up and says, I did it, and he kind of gets dragged. Well, apparently George Zinn had to receive medical treatment following that, little fracas. And he told multiple nurses and doctors that he did it because he was being paid to do it. He said he had not been paid yet, but he was going to receive payment. He didn't know from who. That's interesting. Decoy Boy told medical staff, apparently he was just singing, just telling everybody who would listen that he did it because payment was going to be promised to him if he did do it. What does that tell us? We should definitely dig into George Zinn. We should definitely try to confirm this relatively strong tip that he has connections to the feds, because it would be very interesting if the feds were going to pay George Zinn. I'm not saying that.
Okay, so she's going on this rant about George Zinn, who happens to be at all of these events. It is bizarre. I mean, and again, that would suggest that it's not the FBI. That would suggest that it's not the Trump administration. That would suggest that it's a collective of bureaucratic leaders from the last 40 years that are still technically legally funded, but in some regards, they operate on a different agenda, and they in some ways could be construed as rogue. If I were to be conspiratorial, I would think that this is all just to start a civil war. I think Candace needs to worry less about Zinn and worry more about the information that she's getting, manipulating her and the people around her being vulnerable to manipulation. Because I think that there's an agenda that is more based on divide and conquer civil war type of outcome than anything else. So let's hear what she's got to say about this guy.
They are. But yeah, why wouldn't he know? I mean, make that make sense. Why wouldn't George Zinn know where the payment was coming from? Yeah. Anyways, you guys, we are on the case. I wanted to share that with you. Some other explosive things that we have found out that the feds have not shared. Other people that they were questioning that they did not share. People that similarly have been told to be quiet about everything. And let's be clear, they are not asking everyone to be silent because they are seeking a conviction against Tyler Robinson. They are telling everybody to be silent because they don't want to get caught. The feds are covering their own tracks.
Before she pivots, the feds are not giving her every detail of an open investigation. How is that a red flag? That's the way that it works. And I think that that does provide some validity to Laura Loomer and her post. Like you really truly don't understand how an investigation works. And if there is a conspiracy, like the people that are investigating are getting duped as well. Something don't smell right, I'll be honest, but like a lot of things, she's not pointing the finger at the right people because it's not doable to do it at that level. Not this kind of cover up that many people at that low of a level of law enforcement to be in on it and all that stuff. It just doesn't add up. And then not only that, but like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, they're not covering up the murder of Charlie Kirk. I don't see that. That would be, if they were involved in that, they'd have to be in such distress that like if they're in that much distress and there's somebody scaring them like that to do that, then we're all fucked. If I thought the feds were covering it up, I would say it. And I'm not going to say that the feds don't choose not to investigate things. And of course they have to investigate this one. But I don't know. It just doesn't, the whole Israeli narrative doesn't make sense. The FBI covering it up doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not paid by any of them. I'm not afraid of any of them. I would, if I thought it was the FBI, I'd say it was the FBI. If I thought it was the Israeli government, I would say it. I really would. I don't think that. I think that it's if it is conspiratorial, it was an inside job, probably influenced by deep, dark projects that don't report to the current administration. And if you think those don't exist, you got another thing coming. So that's more so the narrative. I also think like a civil war type of thing. It could definitely be like the overall narrative, and he was just a big enough figure to qualify for like a Martin Luther King type deal. So that is all plausible. It's hard to say, but let's keep watching her.
All right, guys, I want to pivot here, and I want to read you something. Well, now, I want to be perfectly clear that despite all appearances over the last 2 weeks, it has been a very difficult time for me. Obviously, normally when I'm covering a story, I'm bombastic and I feel brave and focused because I am speaking about someone that has nothing to do with me. This has been particularly challenging because I had, and I still am, very much grieving Charlie and waking up to the realization that not everyone is grieving him in the same way, that he may have just been a political pawn to so many people that he loved deeply. I mean, I'm going to be honest, even Donald Trump's non-reaction, not making any demands for truth regarding this investigation deeply upsets me. It deeply upsets me because I know how much Charlie Kirk loved Donald Trump. So I was just so I was happy. It brought literal tears to my eyes when a donor from Turning Point USA, a donor that actually then unlocked a whole another level of donations for Charlie Kirk through introductions that he made for Charlie, and a donor who ironically, this is the very donor that when I said to Charlie, we need to be in the UK, we need to be in the UK, and he was like, well, I know somebody who I could maybe have set up an event and we can start Turning Point UK. And that event was when I first laid eyes on George, not when I spoke to him, but when I actually first laid eyes on him. That donor issued a public statement. And I think he will be the first of many donors that might make a public statement. And he made this statement in my favor. This was written by him and his wife, two wonderful people, John and Irina Mappin. I'm just going to read it because I think these words don't just eloquently express how I'm feeling, but I think these words eloquently might express how we are all feeling worldwide. Like, I read this and I said to myself, I couldn't have written this better myself with all of the time in the world. John and Irina write, Charlie Kirk built Turning Point USA on transparency, free speech, and a relentless pursuit of truth. We are witness to that. If Candace Owens had been assassinated, Charlie would have torn apart every lie and devoted every working day and night to uncovering the full truth. He would not have trusted the authorities to deliver justice. He would have demanded it from the rooftops. Charlie would not have waited for the funeral or memorial to happen. He would have gotten to work immediately. He would have worked night and day to uncover exactly what had happened to his great friend. Consider this. Charlie did not sleep for several days and several nights just to ensure that J.D. Vance became the vice presidential nominee. And although that job was supremely important for the country and its future, it was still ultimately simply helping to secure a job promotion. Candace is working to get to the truth of who killed Charlie Kirk and why they did it. Charlie's execution is an assassination with potentially far-reaching political consequences for America and the world. What we have seen so far beggars belief. A crime scene apparently completely destroyed in days, and plenty of evidence that simply does not add up. This investigation and the truthful answer as to who was really responsible for deciding that Charlie would be executed in front of the world will affect America's future, its collective soul and conscience forever. The truth, when known, and we believe it will be known, will have far-reaching international consequences. The very idea that someone could be convicted and could receive the death penalty when there remains even the slightest shadow of doubt or shred of uncertainty that they may not be guilty of that crime, and that Christian souls would tolerate that possibility, is anathema to all the teachings of Christ. If there were circumstances where a suspect or someone standing trial for murder did not have a clean opportunity to receive the very best and fairest legal representation to present their case and defense to the world, it would have been abhorrent to Charlie Kirk. It would go against every constitutional principle that he lived, fought, and died for. Erica is in mourning. May God bless her and her family. Please give her and her family time to grieve. Any civilized culture, Christian or otherwise, allows a grieving widow 40 days of mourning to make peace with the Lord and to respect the departed. Those people who truly love her would gladly grant her all the space she needs. We certainly do. But we are growing rather sick and ashamed of seeing people criticize Candace for doing her level best to get to the bottom of and to the truth of what happened to Charlie on that day. You don't have to agree with Candace on every subject that she addresses on her shows to acknowledge that much of what she is presenting on the subject of Charlie's death is extremely concerning to America and to the world, completely valid and very relevant to the investigation. She has an army of truth seekers worldwide who are helping her in her search and her research. This is a truly new and modern phenomenon that has never happened before. This is not 1963, and boomers need to get used to it. In our view, the official investigation should be immediately ordered by the appropriate legal authority to proactively share everything they know with Candace and her selected team. That is, if truth and real understanding of who decided to assassinate Charlie and why is the sincere objective. That would go some way towards restoring public trust in the system. It is our view that her actions are not just the actions that any real friend would take for their friend. They are the actions of the highest order of patriotism. Candace's actions are service to the whole country and to the world. Beyond that, they are truly providential, divinely inspired, and metaphysical. There is a relationship between truth and all living things. There is a relationship between truth and God.
Again, first of all, this is exhausting. Second of all, I don't even remember who was saying all of this, but this sounds so scripted in and of itself. It makes me wonder continuously how much not if, but how much of what she is consuming and verifying is not literally orchestrated and fed to her. Because this is just, and these Candace narratives woven within them. I mean, I don't know. Like, this is just carrying on and on and on and on and on. And it's, if this is, I think it was a donor. I forgot trying to listen to all this, because it starts to get over the top where it feels like it's been manufactured. And I literally think that she believes it's real, and that other legitimate sources have given her this stuff or have put it out there. And they're really doing it to manipulate her so she does what she's doing right now, which is reading it. But let's keep listening.
Right now, Turning Point USA is at a vital moment. If we continue to witness the mistreatment and the suppression of a young woman and a mother of 4 young children who is doing everything she can to help get to the truth about who decided that her friend and fellow freedom fighter Charlie had to die, they will lose the country and the world. And America will have lost one of its greatest living patriots, only to see those factors against which he fought and died for win. Candace's extremely valid point that hers has so far been one of the only public voices from Charlie's closest friends questioning the absurdity of some of the communications regarding what happened and demanding clarity is well made, and frankly, that point alone is shocking to the world. We have been receiving calls from senior Republicans and from Turning Point donors who agree with her all last week, and they started up again this week. They agree with Candace, but seeing the attacks that she is experiencing, they are terrified to voice their views publicly. Is that really where we are in 2025? Few people following the matter believe the official version. A low minority believe that the current suspect is guilty. That statistic alone is an awful commentary on the state of the official investigation. The world wants truth. The world, Charlie, and those who truly loved him and knew his purposes certainly deserve justice. But justice needs not just to be done. It needs to be seen to be done justly. I want to read that sentence again because it's very powerful. Justice needs not just to be done. It needs to be seen to be done justly. It must be truthful, it must be fair, and it must be clean. If there are videos, show them. If there is evidence, show it. The world is not going to accept anything less. This is not about who is right or wrong, or whose theory is correct.
Okay, Candace, I hate to break this to you. You are not an intelligence agency. You do not have a federal charter. You're not a government agency. So whoever this is that wrote this piece of propaganda, and this is where you start to lose me, and I really want to be on your side, but this is where I start to get lost. Whoever wrote this piece of propaganda that you're playing for us, that's just a pat on your back, and it's on the same level as the other things you're accusing other close members of Charlie Kirk, as far as using his death for different, personal narratives, etc. It's the same level. So it's, I don't know. So, okay, yes, you as his friend questioning all of this, I respect that. But at the same time, you're not making sense a lot of the time. And, this person saying, oh, everything you say is just so it makes so much sense. No, like 30% of what you say makes sense. And then there's a whole nother 70%. And some of it is definitely, most of that other 70 don't make sense. And it's really irrelevant. It's fluff. So I don't know. Well, let's keep listening. We're almost
This
done.
investigation is about actually getting to the truth, whatever that truth is. If the current theory for the shooter is truth, then okay. If that is a lie, then we need to know. Every episode of Candace's show since Charlie died, from her heartfelt emotional tribute to her exceptional journalism, has been incredible. And anyone who cares for the truth and who wants to know who killed Charlie for real should watch every episode in its sequence. The fact is that we are being told as his friends, or simply as people who had never heard of Charlie Kirk before his assassination, simply does not make sense to the vast majority. It feels like gaslighting. It feels like we are being lied to. It is not hard to tell the truth to the public or to present the clear facts that illustrate the truth clearly. Many extremely ethical people helped to build Turning Point and all associated groups, Turning Point Action and Turning Point Faith. Many of these people are existing and potential future donors. We know many of them. Ethical people will not stand for lies or injustice, either privately or publicly. The existing and future donors who were friends of Charlie's and those he loved deserve no less, but please spare us the absurd and evil suppression of suggesting that Candace should not be doing exactly what she is doing. She is doing no more and no less than what her friend Charlie would have done for her. Her actions are far more reasonable and experienceable than an assassin's bullet to the throat. Consider for a moment the evil of possibly allowing the conviction of a potentially innocent party with the death penalty. We can only begin to imagine the wrath of God and how upset Charlie will be if an innocent man were to be executed for his assassination, and what ill fortune would befall a Christian country and the individuals that would allow this. In this sense, Christianity and a leading Christian democracy are now on trial. There's a special place in eternity reserved for those who would allow such an injustice. If Turning Point and Charlie left in charge, if Turning Point and those who Charlie left in charge failed to stay true to the principles and purposes on which Charlie founded it, and with which he and Candace originally breathed life into it during its formative years, then Turning Point will end up like MySpace. It will become just one more ineffective and rather dull has-been activity. I believe that God has other plans for Charlie and for his legacy. A cover-up of the truth is not, in my view, part of God's plans. I believe that people of goodwill from all over the world will ensure that. Keep going, Candace. Charlie is walking with you every step of the way. He loves you deeply, and you are right about your friendship with him. Never at any time, through all the challenges that the political arena and life brought, did he ever withdraw his friendship from you, Candace. You are an eternal cornerstone in his life and his legacy. What a great friend you are being to him. We are all witness to that. All of our love, John and Arena. Oh, it's going to make me cry again. It's just like, I really needed it. Through that morning. Amir Odom, hey, what's up? Thank you. He has a great YouTube channel, Amir Odom. He writes, before we judge Candace for thinking that there's hidden agendas, we have to admit history has given her every reason to. Absolutely. There are. This is politics is nasty business, Amir. As you know, you're a friend of someone who's in politics, Brett Cooper. Corey Henry writes, give me the Kool-Aid in a juice box, LMAO, regarding Ashton Forbes' cult comment. Yeah, it was totally crazy. I don't know what yeah, maybe we're in a cult of truth. I don't know. Like, what's it called? Maybe Christianity? I mean, I want to tell the truth. So there's that. Sarah D writes, keep going, Candace. Love from Australia. Thank you, Sarah. Steve writes, a major victory in defending Charlie's true legacy. We stand with you, Candace. The truth will come out. When it does, it will shake the foundations of the world. I believe it. You believe it. We all believe it. John and Arena believe it. We feel it, like we're fighting, and it feels, there's a finality to it. Like this had to happen, and the demons are frantic and they're angry. And I only have a platform because I keep telling the truth. If I had lied, if I had sold my soul, which many people have done, I wouldn't have earned your trust. And so, yeah, it comes at a cost. It certainly comes at a cost. Last 2 weeks have been very hard, but it also comes at an even more amazing reward. Justine Lowe writes, as soon as you said he was betrayed, I knew it was true. My female intuition at work brought me to tears and prayed for your safety. Thank you. He was. RN Explorer writes, thank you for fighting for the truth. I believed you from the beginning. I am crying as you read that letter. I'm glad you cried on me because I was like, not twice in the same year. If I'm going to be caught crying. But yeah, you are laying your life and fighting for the truth for your friend. Amy writes, most holy Theotokos, bless and protect the handmaid of God, Candace and her family. Candace, so many of us in the Orthodox Christian community are praying for you. Lord, have mercy on us all. Yep. It has also been great to feel the Orthodox and the Catholic energy rising. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that as a pot shot to other denominations, but it feels like for there's been a lot of persecution, and a lot of this for some reason has involved, as I showed you yesterday, pastors that have been a part of this, like part of spreading these lies. And it's not good. It's just not good to have pastors using the Bible to lie. It's just not okay. Maheen Siddiqui writes, I think it would be interesting to do a deep dive into how the term Judeo-Christian came about. I'm aware of it. It seems to be a very convenient word for Israel. I don't think any of the core values or their views on Jesus are shared. It definitively is not. And, we inherited it. We were all in public schools. We all thought the same thing. I was working for Zionist entities. So I don't fault us our ignorance. That is how the deception is thick, and we're finally piercing through that layer for the first time. Will Wallace writes, Decoy Boy, please reach out to Candace's people for the tea. Gang is inquiring. We feel like we know, but we don't know, right? I agree. Elda MJ writes, rooting for you from Malaysia and praying for your safety. You are so brave. Thank you. Donna writes, I'm not crying. You're crying, Candace. Yeah, no, you were crying. I felt the Holy Spirit in every word that you pressed today. Godspeed, and may he bless you eternally for what you are doing, the potential sacrifice of your life and those around you. Yeah, I think we have to be brave. And I'm a real Christian. I know this life is not it. I know it's not it. And in fact, people I know have intentionally been trying to convince us that this is it so that they can further commit you to their matrix, to get you to agree to sell your soul, to get you to agree to lie because you're so worried about things that are in this world. I know that Charlie's soul was removed from his body, and I know that he's watching. And I keep that in mind. When it gets hard, I keep in mind that Charlie is watching. And I feel that he's with me, and he's proud that somebody who cared about him is fighting. Boredom took over, writes, you are literally my spirit animal and have given me the motivation to push forward on my dream. Charlie is so proud of you, love. Please don't give up on us, and these fakes should be scared. You are the storm. Thank you. We are the storm, because I'm telling you, I could not do it without you guys.
So I think the only thing we're missing here is where she promotes her Candace Owens CIA. Candace, I deem you legitimate as far as your motive. I think that you're genuinely trying to figure out what happened. You're genuinely trying to chase down the truth. I commend your courage. I worry about certain levels of recklessness here because if you're right and it's a conspiracy, I hate to say it, but I don't think you're ever going to get to the actual person that said do it type of thing. I really don't. So I think it's going to be spinning wheels and just conspiracies that linger on for decades. I think you're onto some things, but you're off in other areas. So all this fluff, all these people that believe you, we get it that there's going to be people that believe every word that you say. That's always the case with almost any influencer. You're going to have somebody that just believes everything that's said. A lot of the stuff that you're saying is not just truth. It's a lot of it honestly is irrelevant information, and I really wasn't expecting to be saying that last week when I was seeing all your videos hyping up the information you were dropping Monday. There's a lot of, I really think that a 5-day vacation is going to be in your best interest just to clear your head. I don't think we're ever going to have the full answer on it, to be honest. And the Israelis, it really does appear that they are just a scapegoat. All right, guys, I have one final clip left for you. In this clip, Candace talks about the bullet that hit Charlie Kirk, and she says she's 100% verified this with multiple sources that it's not a 30-06 that hit Charlie Kirk, which is the caliber of the weapon that Tyler Robinson is accused of using. So that is very interesting. This clip, if anything, potentially has the most evidentiary weight, at least.
Neck indeed did stop the bullet without question. Okay. And this is going to dispel a lot of theories that are out there. And I'm telling you this 100%. Charlie Kirk was shot from the front, and the bullet did not exit. And at least a fragment of the bullet was recovered from his neck. And I'm going to tell you exactly where it was recovered from. I have fact-checked this information from multiple sources now. I've actually been sitting on this for a little bit over a week. Right around here. So think about almost in line with your shoulder blade right in the center. Now, why is that helpful? Because it gives us a bullet trajectory, okay? It went in here where you saw that, and it was stopped, and a fragment was pulled from, think right, if you're just touching your spine in line with your shoulder blade. That leads us obviously to the part that he's maybe not being forthcoming about. They did not recover a bullet from a .30-06. They didn't recover a bullet from a .30-06. Just didn't happen, okay? If it found a .30-06 bullet, Charlie's death certificate certainly would have reflected that. In suicide situations, as just one example, medical examiners feel free to chime in. I've spoken to quite a few, but when the gun and the bullet are known, they are reflected onto the death certificate, okay? There is not one reflected onto Charlie Kirk's death certificate because they did not recover a bullet from a .30-06. Hunters and military men rejoice. It turns out that common sense still rules the roost, okay? You guys were right. You were absolutely right. And this is why I hate politics, because it requires us to submit to the idea that we were all somehow born yesterday. It means that he was shot with a completely different kind of gun, obviously, okay? The kind where this would make sense, that it didn't cut through him. The kind where it would make sense that outside of an artery effectively exploding from the front, there was, his neck didn't explode, which that particular weapon that they were trying to tell us Charlie was killed with would have gone through about 7 necks. There were people who were insisting, by the way, that were on the ground, the witnesses that were insisting that they heard multiple shots. That's another element of this. Charlie's neck indeed did stop the bullet without question, okay? And this is going to dispel a lot of...
I don't know. I'm still on the fence on the whole thing. It could still be Tyler Robinson for sure. It also could be some type of psyop that's been in the works for years. But as far as like a 2-day thrown together assassination by the Israelis, doesn't make a lot of sense. As far as the local police and the FBI covering up a crime of this magnitude, I just don't see that type of cover up on that level of law enforcement. It just doesn't make sense to me. So nobody really knows what's going on. I do want to say that hat kind of cringes me out. Candace Intelligence Agency, it's just weird. All of the narratives that are Candace within her evidence is really a big part of what makes it less believable. So I don't know, guys. I really do want to know what you guys think. Comment down below. Let me know if you guys think I should have put her in the crazy bin. As of right now, I'm not putting her in the crazy bin, but there's always next time, so we'll see. Hopefully there's not a next time, but you never know. As always, guys, thanks for watching. This is Jeremiah Sitterson with the Ex-Fugitive Factor Special Report. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you next time. Thank you, guys.